Welcome, everyone, to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'm your host, Christine Courtney. Our goal here is to give you some actionable takeaways that will help you lead your teams. Thanks for joining us on this leadership journey. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Happy summer. We have a special episode of Stepping Into Your Leadership for summertime. And our summertime guests today are Tom Armstrong and Erika Petrelli-Bayh, who are here in the studio. If you've listened to our shows before, you've heard them before because they are regular, popular guests here on our podcast. So they work here at the leadership program. One is in charge of all of our training and development, and the other one is in charge of a ton of people in our programming department. So they both have a large experience of many, many years managing and leading large groups of very diverse folks. And so I thought, what better way than to absolutely put them on the spot and come up with a summertime special where every week you're going to hear maybe one, maybe two, depending on how quick they are, little quick episodes of real life situations in the workplace. The names have been changed to protect the guilty. And I will read the scenario, and then we're going to hear Tom's version, and then we're going to hear Erika's version. And the thing the reason I brought both of them in is they tend to have, now watch, they won't today, but they tend to be both great leaders and have very different styles and approaches. So those of you who are out there, when you listen to us and you're like, well, that's not me, I can't be that person. You can absolutely be you on your best day. And so I invited these two here so you can see two different approaches. Now, sometimes they're hopefully they may agree. That's okay, right? They've both been trained at the same place. So that may happen.
I think it's a little weird because I feel like I learned everything I know from Erika. So it's funny that then we don't.
It's a test for
how
you,
does
Tom.
that work? The math doesn't work, but then I don't.
Yeah. We're just telling everybody this, but really, I'm doing a separate intro where I tell them we're putting Tom on the spot and saying, no. And then at the end, I have, as a even bigger surprise, I have a lightning round, and we're going to have 2 minutes to see if we can get through 8 questions each with quick answers, and we'll see. And so other weeks, there may be 2 different people in, or we may have Tom and Erika back. But we're trying this for the summer. Let us know how you think. Send us in your scenarios, and Tatiana will put them together for us to get out here in future episodes. So are you ready?
I'm so excited.
Okay, Tom, you're going first on this one, and then Erika,
All right.
but I'll switch it up. Okay.
Here we go.
All right, so listen up because I'm not repeating myself. All right. So I've changed the names, but here we go. These are either situations that people have sent me or given me in our workshops, or we've gotten some other way. So here we go. Jane, a project manager, has consistently missed deadlines for project deliverables over the past 3 months. Her reports are often incomplete or contain errors, causing delays and additional work for other team members. Recently, a critical project milestone was delayed because Jane submitted an incorrect budget report, leading to a week-long delay while corrections were made. The client has expressed dissatisfaction with the delays to you, not to Jane, putting the contract renewal at risk. And this also, just as some background, this client, it works a lot in the industry. So this is the kind of thing that can spread quickly. So, Tom, conversation with Jane.
I love this. I don't love being in that situation, of course, but I like the question a lot. I think it's really totally relevant to a lot of people.
Thanks, Tom. Now just answer it.
So, yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me here. No, okay. So right off the bat, first thing that comes to mind is I'm asking myself, what mistakes did I make? So I'm not initially thinking frustration about this person's performance, but I'm asking myself, either did I promote this person too quickly? Have I trained them correctly? Like, where are the gaps? What could I have done better in order to increase their performance? They'd be doing better now, because often there's a gap there, right? You get hired to a new role. You don't yet know all the things your boss has forgotten because they thought you did so great in your past role. They think you're just going to be great everywhere. And now you're floundering because it's a brand new thing. So I'm assuming that it's a new thing as opposed to they've been here now for a year and suddenly their performance drops. It would be a different conversation. So I'm thinking, and that would be like, what are the environmental factors? If it were the second, I'd be thinking, what are the environmental factors impacting this person, and can we talk about it, see how I can help to resolve that in any way, what obstacles can be removed. But my assumption here is that they're kind of new in the role based on what you said. So I'd be thinking, what could I have done differently to prepare them? That's my first thought. Okay. Now it's possible I did all the things. Like that they have peers that also, like, generally speaking, people do perform at a certain level above what this person's doing, given the training that they received and all that. So then I'm going to basically say, hey, first I'm going to apologize, to the person. I'm going to apologize to the client. Of course, I'm doing all the client care, but I'm also going to basically approach it with a little humility with the employee and let them know that probably they didn't get the training. Something is not going right.
Right. So imagine that I'm Jane and you go say it so that people can hear the actual words that are said or a version of it.
So let's say I'm going to call Jane in, right? And I'm going to call you Jane.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Jane. So thank you for coming in. I wanted to talk to you about some issues related to the project that you're working on right now. We're getting some complaints from the client. And I know it's kind of hard to hear, but I want to just act quickly on it so we can resolve it and then figure out what some of the causes might be of it. So these are the issues. There's some lateness on the reports being turned in. I didn't write down all the things, Christine, that you were saying. But so I'd go through the list and then and I would try to figure out ahead of time, what are the 3 top ones that I need to improve? I'm not necessarily going to try to get into the weeds on everything that's not right, but what are the 3 priorities I have? And I'm going to say, we're going to address these right away. And it's going to involve me taking a more direct role in the project just to get it back on track so that we can ensure the client is happy. So I'm not necessarily, I think some people might call this micromanagement. That's not what it is. I'm just getting really involved in the short term to get it back on its feet. And then we'll kind of figure out, really go into the details about how to improve performance in the key areas. So that's my primary thing, is to make both the client feel that there's a plan and that the person, and then the client sees me actively involved so that they feel safer. And also that the employee then is getting the training they need through that process.
Great.
And then I'm also going to create an action plan probably for some of the items in a moment, not right away. I got to get it on its feet. We might create an action plan that these are the things that you have to be able to achieve in order to continue in this role. That could also be a conversation, but I'm going to see if other things work before that. Okay. I cede my time.
Thank you, Tom.
I cede my time.
Cede my time to the gentlewoman from Indiana. All right. Erika Petrelli-Bayh. Are you ready? You heard the scenario. Jane is your person.
I heard the scenario. And it's first of all, everything that Tom said is spot on. In terms of, is it scenario A or B? So it's so fascinating straight out of the gate that Tom immediately assumed scenario B. This person is newly promoted and maybe kind of in over their head without the proper preparation for this new responsibility. I immediately assumed scenario A. Because you didn't give us context, this person is new on the job. You just said for the past 3 months. So I assume something has changed in this person's life 3 months ago. And there's a really powerful, one of the most powerful in the larger arena of emotional intelligence. I first heard it when thinking about a teacher to a student or a parent to a child, but it's powerful, profoundly powerful to a supervisor direct report, which is getting outside of our traditional notion. So in this case, Jane is falling down on the job. There's no doubt on it, right? So the traditional approach in leadership is, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's true.
Right? Like,
these initial assumptions.
You are doing, and the reframe here is what's going on with you, which is a really important reframe, or what's happening. And so as a supervisor, I make the assumption, hopefully we'll get to a scenario where we remind ourselves that assumptions are dangerous, because we're making a lot of them right now. But the assumption is something's going on, and my first approach is what's happening. Not, let me count the ways that you're doing wrong, but let me see if you're willing to talk to me about what's going on, because clearly something's going on. So to start, I would say start in almost the exact same way that Tom did, which is, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this current project with client A. We've missed some deadlines and the client is unhappy right now. This is unlike what I've grown to expect from you. Is there something going on that I don't know about? Is there something going on that I need to be aware about? Can you talk to me about why you think this is happening? So opening from a curious, empathetic place to see if Jane might be willing to say, this happened in my personal life, or I'm having a conflict with the client, with the coworker. Like something has cropped up that's different. There's something in the mix that maybe as a supervisor, I'm not aware of. And then I feel like the action steps, we probably come to the same point of action that Tom described, where I say, well, I'm going to hunker in side by side with you to make sure you are supported and feel supported. And then let's talk about what are the outcomes we need to have by Friday, by 2 weeks from now, by the completion of the project. Let's get those in writing so that we're both clear and we're moving forward together. So I do feel like, interestingly, the ultimate action steps are pretty much identical. My mindset was different from the start to a same conclusion.
Right.
You know?
So interesting that you guys had different assumptions. And so Tom's was that the person was new and therefore asked the question, which is a good one if you have a new employee. Have they actually been trained enough? Have I done enough training on them with them and so forth? And then Erika, you presumed a good employee. And then in the past you heard that line of in the past 3 months and keyed into like, okay, maybe there's something going on deeper in their life that if we talk about it, we can kind of, let some breath around that. And then still both of them focus on how do we get better, resolve this, fix things with the client. All right. Tatiana popped her head in, which is new, Tom. So I got to let her, she has another idea. What are you going to do? What do you think, Tati?
I agree with both of them. I think we would all end up at the same place. I would just also start different. Okay. I would, bring Jane in and ask her, how do you think it's going? And let her tell me how it's going. And then if she does not mention that maybe they're unhappy, I would say, would it surprise you to learn that they've been complaining about this performance? And then again, see what she says, because then, because both things, I agree with Erika, that's what I thought of too, like something's happening. So I was just like, oh, something's happening. I want her to tell me. But I think sometimes as a manager, you might feel uncomfortable saying like, what's going on? What started 3 months ago? Because it might just be like, sometimes people are just bad at work.
It's funny. I would disagree with that person. I mean, and of course, honoring your, everybody, like you were saying earlier, Christine, everybody has different approaches. So the reason,
yes,
if I'm Jane, and also every employee is different, right? So a different employee might feel differently about the two approaches. So big part of this is knowing your team and understanding how to approach each employee. But for me, if I'm Jane, I want you just to tell me. And if you ask me how it's going, like if you say, how do you think the soup tastes? And I'm like, it's pretty good. And then you're like, I think, and everybody else thinks it's pretty bad. I'd rather you just tell me right off the bat, things aren't going well. I want to check in why. I feel a little
it's a gotcha
caught.
Moment.
Yeah. Otherwise, like, oh man, now I thought it was going well. You already knew it wasn't. So I don't like that feeling. I don't feel as supported. Someone else might like it, but yeah, that's just me.
Okay. Yeah. And it also depends, you probably, I imagine, Tatiana, has had experience when you've tried that method that the people tell you right away that it's going badly. Where I think it does get into trouble if they're like, it's fine.
It's great. It's the best project I've ever been a part of.
I think for me, I just want to give people the opportunity. Because there's something weird about this situation where it's just like 3 months has gone by and we haven't had a conversation about things being late before. So in its essence, there's something wrong with.
Right. You already haven't been on top of it.
Yeah. For a couple months. So I think from that perspective, I'm taking the perspective of a situation where, I've been in the situation before where I'm called in late into a situation. And so I'm trying to gather as much information. So it's more like I'm the new manager to this team, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, just let me know what's going on. I don't know what's going on because obviously it's been 3 months and people are complaining. So there is a deficiency. Just like Tom said, like I'm questioning myself on like what I haven't been doing because how could it get this far? 3 months is a long time.
It is a really long time. Yeah, there's a lot happening here. Actually, when you mentioned that too, Tatiana. One thing for me, also just for clarity, I have almost the same approach to these kind of conversations, just so I know how to get it started. I have like a standard pattern that I follow, and it's always tear off the Band-Aid immediately, and don't even ask how's your day going. It's. You might say but you don't want to start any kind of small talk. It's like, you're here for a reason. Let's talk about it. And now let's start on solutions. So I always follow that. And so there might even sometimes be a better start, but overall, I know that my overall starting, if you take all of them together, is my performance is going to be better when I have kind of like the same thing that I use. Cause it just,
and I took a different assumption that there had been small mistakes along the way and that we were somehow correcting them or getting to it, but it hadn't gotten to a point where the client complained yet. And I think once that client complaint comes in and I'm worried about the business, like the sustainability of the business, that's where I do think the conversation is different. I think the mistake that I see people make though is, and none of you did it, which is good, but in some of the places where I work is the people are on the opposite sides of the table, metaphorically and literally. Like, what did you do? Because a panic starts to arise that you're going to lose this money, right? This client, this money, this funding that takes a long time to get a client, especially in project management and things just, bad news travels quickly, right? Reputation is everything. So I think at that point, the discipline is to breathe, to have that person come in and to say, if it was one of you guys, I would say, oh my God, Tatiana, come look at this complaint I just got. Like, you're on my side. We're a team. Let's figure this out together. Right. Instead of holding it from you and trying to fix it behind the scenes, but like respecting you enough to be like, okay, I know there are things that you've been struggling with. We could talk about that. But right now we got to be aligned on this client care and what we're going to
solve this together.
And sometimes you have to take the person away from the client. Sometimes it's just that, right? And you have to say to the client, like, look, I'm going to give you, some A player that's coming in to, like, or Tom said, do it yourself or whatever. And sometimes it can be salvaged. It really just depends. That's when you hear if Jane, this is what's happening, and she says, I hate that guy. He's horrible. He's aggressive. He throws me under the bus. Then I'm like, whoa, that's going to take a long time for her to get to a place of like empathy and client care, So, all right. Good one. Thanks for jumping in, Tatiana.
Good one out of the gate, Christine.
Okay, good job, you two. Now I'm going to give you a lightning round, and in 1 minute, I'm going to get through as many of these questions as I can with your answers. And we're going to start with Erika and go to Tom, and then the second round will be Tom first, then Erika, and vice versa each time. Okay. All right, on your mark, get set. 1 minute on the clock, go. Erika, what is the most important quality of a great leader?
Empathetic listening.
Tom?
It's not really a quality, but knowing your team.
Okay, great. Tom, name a leader you admire and why?
I guess so. It's not. So I said this at the beginning jokingly, but Erika Petrelli, I've learned so much from her because I think a lot of the time it's your colleagues that you work with that you see their effective leadership and why. I really did learn the foundations of how to have like difficult conversations from Erika. That was my introduction to it, and from there I've just built from experience as well. But so I owe it to her, absolutely.
Great. Erika, name a leader you admire and why.
Outside of the organization of leadership, I talked about him on a previous podcast, Doug Bowles, who's the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I've gotten to see his leadership up close and personal and just from afar. And the reason I admire it is because he is a people first leader who's also a visionary who is driving forward this massive business that is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But yet you would think all he cares about is the single person.
All right, stop. That was 1 minute and 6 seconds. Good job, you guys. We got through 2 important questions, but 2 great leaders from 2 great leaders. All right. Thank you for joining us this week, and hope you guys are having a great summer. Come back next week for a new problem.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'd like to give a special shout out to our podcast producer, Richard Francisco. Check out our notes for any details. And if you get anything out of this, please follow us. And if you enjoy it, please take a moment to rate us or write a comment. It will mean the world to us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you just can't get enough, follow me on TikTok and check out tlpnyc.com/podcast for more information.